Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a master's student at the University of Oxford studying history, and in the fall I'll begin my PhD in history and African American studies at Yale University. One of the things I get asked the most is how I manage my time and how I manage to balance all of the things that are going on in my life. I have my academic work, I also have a part-time job at the moment, as well as my YouTube, my college admissions consulting business, as well as my podcast and all of that. So I've got a lot on my plate and a lot of things that I want to accomplish on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So I wanted to show you guys how I manage my time and how I manage to stay productive. I think that everybody's way of studying and the way that they stay productive is individualistic. I think that we all have different ways of learning, but ultimately I think that these tips are going to be applicable for just about anybody. When it comes to goals and time management, I think that there are so many things that we can learn from other people. I know that I definitely benefit from watching videos on YouTube. And before I get started, if you guys are not yet subscribed to this channel, I am going to be moving to New Haven soon for my PhD, and there's a lot of fun content coming your way. I'm going to show you guys a little sneak peek of my content calendar so you guys can see what is to come, so that you guys can get a little excited. If you guys have any recommendations, please leave me a comment or just shoot me a DM on Instagram. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. So first of all, we're going to talk about the productive mindset. I strongly believe that if it matters to you, you will make time for it. And that time management is all about figuring out what it is that you find easy to spend time doing, such as hanging out with friends or going out or relaxing, watching Netflix, and the things that you find a little bit more challenging. For me, making time for planning and making time for my YouTube channel and editing and all of those things are pretty easy. But my academic work takes a lot of brain power, and working on my consulting business also takes a lot of energy. So you have to figure out what things draw more energy, and you need to figure out how you can commit more time to the things that require a little bit more of your attention, and how to plan when to take care of those things so that way you are being the most productive and you are the most focused, so that way you can give it your best effort. So we often ask the question, how am I going to get everything done? I have too much on my plate, I'm stressed out, etc. And we have to think about ways to kind of break that down. So instead of saying, how am I going to get everything done? Say, how can I structure my day or my week in order to be as productive as I need to be to get the tasks done that I need to in order to achieve my goals or head in the direction of my goals. You have to value your time and make the absolute most of it. And that's what brings me to this next piece of the video, which is to redefine the way that we talk about productivity. So productivity is defined as the state or quality of producing something. And the connotation with the word productivity is kind of the creation of capital. And especially in the United States or in the Western world, we think of productivity as only having to do with kind of the creation of money, the creation of wealth, whether that's actually wealth in terms of monetary wealth or wealth of knowledge. So we only think of productivity as something that is wholly beneficial to the creation of something. So I want to change the way that you and I think about productivity. I want you to think of productivity as not the production of capital, but the production of your best work. Your best work requires that you rest, that you recharge, and that sometimes you reevaluate. If you're heading in the direction of a particular goal, you may have to kind of pivot along the way in order to produce your best work in order to make it to that goal. So I'll break that down in just a second. Work is not always fun. Sometimes even the things that we enjoy, even the things that we love, like me and research, is not always enjoyable, and there are times where you find it very exhausting, you don't want to do it, you would much prefer to hang out with your friends or sleep in. So you have to figure out ways to come to your work fresh and recognize that it's not always important that you are having fun doing the thing that you love, but that you would rather do that than just about anything else, and that you are so dedicated to your goal and so dedicated to that work that you would rather do that and figure out ways to be successful at that than basically to have any other job. So again, we just need to redefine productivity in terms of putting out our best work, and sometimes that requires rest. Sometimes that requires taking a step away from our work and coming to it fresh and making time within our calendars, within our planners in order to make that happen. With everything that I have on my plate, I try to make sure that I have at least one night off per week. I often try to let myself have a full day where I'm not doing my academic work, because I find that very pressing and requires so much focus that I do give myself at least a night or a day off per week. And that is my time when I need to rest rest, recharge. I need to see my friends. I need to just not think about my academic work. And that's something that I implement into my schedule and make time for. And that is required in order for me to do my best work as an academic. So, like I said, productivity is not just about working 100% of the time, but working effectively. So do the things that will help you be productive, in that do the things that will help you produce your best work. So rest. So now I'm going to talk about the tools that I use. So the first tool that I use is a physical planner. This is the Day Designer Planner. I have used it for the past 3 years, and I've already purchased my next planner for the following academic year, and I absolutely love it. I find the need to use a physical planner because I like being able to write things down. It helps solidify it in my memory. It helps me kind of visualize how much I have on my plate. But I also find the importance of using a digital planner or a digital software in order to keep me organized and to manage my time. So the next thing that I use is this thing called Notion. So I'm going to quickly go to a screen grab and show you guys how I use Notion and the different pages that I'm using. I do plan on doing a full review and talk a little bit about how I actually use Notion and how I take notes on Notion, but I'm just going to show you guys a quick sneak peek. And if you guys want to see more on this particular software and this application and how I use it, then leave me a comment down below and make sure to give this video a thumbs up so that I know that that's the type of content you guys want to see. So now let's go ahead and switch to my screen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the Notion app, and this is the first page. This is my overview, and within here I have basically all the information that I need on a daily basis. So every new year I have a word for the year. This year's word is intuition, and then I have my long-term goals and my short-term goals, and then I go on to this week. In here I have my goals for the week, my personal weekly to-dos, my to-dos for Oxford, for Yale, for my business, for YouTube, and for my podcast. And then down here I have my weekly plan, which is basically my general planner, so I can see it kind of laid out. And this is where I will reference back whenever I'm working in my planner every morning. And then down here I have my calendar, which has all of the necessary dates for my work, for personal appointments, for the podcast, for my YouTube, all of that. And then down here, I have a list of all of my priorities. So keeping my priorities straight is really important to me. So my initial priority is my PhD. My academic work is the most important thing to me. Second is trying to get a law degree. Third is going to be my friendships. And I put these kind of on par with one another. I definitely dedicate a lot of time to my friendships and to my family. And then I have my YouTube channel, the Instagram, my consulting business, my podcast, future projects, downtime, and travel. Down here, I list some reminders, and then here are some things for next week. And this is kind of my running list of things to do. All right, now I'm going to go ahead into the Redhead Academic folder. This is where I save all my sponsorships, things about branding, things about keywords, things about my sponsorship goals, companies I would like to work with in the future. It's really kind of like a manifestation board of sorts. It's a way of me kind of keeping track of what my brand does and where it's heading. And then I go to my content calendar, and you guys get to see a little sneak peek of what is to come. So I plan all of my content 5 weeks out. So sometimes that changes. Sometimes I have to kind of throw in a vlog if I don't have enough time to do a heavy edit video. But ultimately, this is my general plan, and I keep it in my planner and on my calendar. And then I'll show you guys a quick little swipe of all of the videos that are to come. There's a lot of moving vlogs, as you can see, and lots of stuff about using my iPad and all kinds of stuff. So lots in here to get excited about. And now we're going to go on to my Oxford dissertation. So this is my way of organizing my sections and organizing my dissertation. So when I'm working on a section, I will drag it over to in progress. And if it is completed and ready for the review of my supervisor, I will move it into completed. And once it is finished revisions, I will move it into ready for print. So that's how I keep track of my dissertation, and it helps me mentally visualize how my dissertation is panning out. And then we'll move into the podcast folder. This is where I keep all of my future podcast and previous podcasts organized. I make outlines for every podcast, and then I have a list of episodes that need to be recorded, episodes that need to be edited, and the ones that have already gone live. Here I have my courses from Yale that I'm looking at, and then my 5-year plan. So in this folder, I have my long-term goals, and that kind of helps keep me centered on what goals I would like to achieve in the future. And then if I open up this drop-down folder, you can see that I have some bits and pieces of my plans for the next year, for the next couple months. I'm not going to share the rest of it with you guys, but I highly recommend keeping a 5-year plan. And then also here I have my budget and a couple other things. I'm currently trying to figure out how to use Notion for my note taking, but it is a great way for me to kind of visualize my long-term and short-term goals. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that little tidbit of looking at how I use Notion as a way to plan out my long-term and short-term goals. And you got to see a little bit of my 5-year plan. And so now we're going to talk about this other piece, which is that your goals do not work unless you do. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story. Back in 2015, I was riding horses full-time. I had been competing full-time as a professional equestrian for 2 years, and I just was so unhappy. I did not feel like my life was heading in any particular direction anymore. I had been working to become a professional my entire life, but had never really kind of assessed what was going to happen after that, and I felt so stuck, and I was not in a good place mentally. I was not happy, and I decided that I was going to redirect my life and go back to school. But I didn't know how, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. You want to take the next step in your life, you want to kind of establish new goals, but you have zero clue how to do it. And that's exactly the place that I was in. So I went to the computer, I did so much research, I stayed up all night, I figured out how many credits I was going to need in order to transfer to a 4-year university, I figured out the types of things I wanted to study, I read a bunch of articles, and ultimately I sat down and I made a 5-year plan. And ever since, I have continually made a 5-year plan every single year to include the different goals and things that I wanted to accomplish. So let's go back to 2015 when I made my first 5-year plan. Within this 5-year plan, I knew that I wanted to transfer to a university. I figured that that would take me about 2 years when I actually calculated all the credits I would need. And then after those 2 years at a 4-year university, I was going to be 4 years into my 5-year plan. And then I ultimately wanted to go to law school and or get a master's. 2 years into that plan, I was at UCLA and trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. I ultimately decided that I definitely wanted to go get a master's, but I wasn't entirely sure how and when I wanted to fit in my law degree. But I felt really stuck and thought I should even consider doing a PhD. And so I redirected and I made a new 5-year plan, and I thought about how I could incorporate more academic and scholarly work in my graduate studies in order to then add a law degree so that I could go and pursue my goals as a legal history scholar and hopefully constitutional lawyer. 5-year plans are a huge part of my day-to-day life. I rely on them heavily, but I want to say one thing about 5-year plans, and I want to change this misconception over kind of future envy. So we oftentimes will kind of romanticize or aggrandize this idea of this career that we want, a place that we want to live, whatever it is. But we think of only that thing. We don't think about what's required in order to get there. For example, so I've talked about this on my channel before, but I plan on doing a JD and a PhD. So I would like to also add a law degree while I'm doing my PhD. And so in order to do that, I have to have good grades, letters of recommendation, a personal statement, and a great LSAT score. I have gotten the GPA part down. I've got really good letters of recommendation. The personal statement is pretty solid. The LSAT score, not so solid. I need that in order to get to where I want to go. So for me, my lofty goal is to go to law school, right? So in order to do that, I have to submit an application. In order to submit that application, the components of the application have to be complete, which means I need the LSAT score. So in order to do that, I need to take the LSAT. In order to take the LSAT, I have to study for the LSAT. In order to study for the LSAT, I need a plan for how to study for the LSAT. So what I need to do in the short term and add to my to-do list and my daily routine is studying. And so that is one thing that I can do in order to prepare me for my lofty goal of going to law school. And in addition to that, when I thought about wanting to do a PhD, I thought, okay, in order to apply for a PhD, you need a written sample, you need a research proposal, you need letters of recommendation, you need good grades. I'm going to do a master's, prepare that. So that's when I went to Oxford, Before that, I did undergraduate research and made sure that I made good connections at UCLA. I got research experience. I figured out my research proposal. And before that, I was in community college and just discovered that I loved history and that's what I wanted to do. So every lofty goal that you have has building blocks that lead to it. And I also really believe that your goal can change. You can pivot at any point. And also the amount of time it takes you to get to where you want to go does not matter. I've seen so many people message me saying it's going to take me 5 years to finish my undergrad, or it's going to take me 4 years to get out of community college and I'm not getting the grades that I want. Don't put the pressure on yourself of a time limit. You've got to figure out what path works for you. I took 4 years to go through community college. I was a terrible student in high school. I had a terrible GPA. There was absolutely no way I was going to be getting into a school like UCLA. And when I was in community college, I had some flops. I dropped some classes. I didn't even get the best grades possible. But I really focused. I figured out my plan and then I made it happen. And then I got to UCLA. And then from there, I went and did a master's at Oxford and now I'm going to Yale. I think that ultimately the timeline does not matter. The way that you get there does not matter so long as it is ethical and so long as it is built on your intuition, not your fear. I think that we oftentimes are so fearful of failure that we don't even try and we don't even figure out the steps in order to succeed. So what you've got to do is evaluate your goals, figure out what you need to do in order to make that goal happen in the long term and the short term. You need to think about how you can incorporate that goal into your daily routine. Let's talk a little bit about what I do with my routine in order to make my goals happen. I need to finish my degree at Oxford in order to begin my degree at Yale. And that means that I need to finish my dissertation. So every single day, I make sure that I am dedicated to doing something with my dissertation. And while I do have a time limit, I ultimately put the pressure on myself to focus as best I can that day. And while having a routine works for some people, my daily schedule is in flux a lot of the time. I have multiple part-time jobs at the moment in order to help me save to move to New Haven. I have YouTube videos to edit and film and upload. I have my podcast that I need to plan for. So having a planner and having this digital software of Notion to use and organize my life is so essential to my own time management and my goals. All right, so we've reached the end of the video. I hope that it was helpful for you guys and that you picked up some tips and that you feel motivated now to go make a plan to figure out your goals and to assess how you can actually structure your days and your short-term goals in order to meet your dream of whatever it is, whether it's going to grad school, whether it's becoming a lawyer or becoming a nurse, whatever it is that you want to strive for, figure out what you can do now and how you can manage your time in order to make that happen. I hope that you are able to achieve everything that you were hoping for. And if you guys enjoyed this one, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys are not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks everyone. Bye.